I'm gonna think optimistically and hope that it gets through. Baines, you see where Bob Jones forfeited another game?
No.
Now they're delaying their schools another week.
Yeah, my wife's not happy about it.
Your boy Saquon's killed me, man. I'm still gonna.
She said she heard.
I think they're loading up too much.
This day. Then with the FRAS review, the CPNC, and we will actually add that at the end of the agenda.
Okay.
We have the approval of minutes. Are there any questions? Council? Okay, public hearings.
Yep.
Resolution 2264, approve request for retail off-premise beer and wine license for help me out, somebody, Sal.
Sri Ganesh.
Sri Ganesh LLC, doing business as Fuel Zone at 101 6th Avenue Southeast. Any questions from council?
No, ma'am.
Resolution 2265, approve request for off-premise beer and wine license for Ard Seafood LLC, doing business as Ard Seafood Market, located at 1216 Beltline Road. Any questions? Resolutions
No.
for today. Resolution 2266, approve MUB expenditure of $459,310 for FY 2021 boring. Any changes? Who's on?
No changes.
Okay, very good. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
Good to see you, Chuck. Resolution 2267, reappointment of Billy E. Cook Jr. as municipal court judge. Questions? No changes, I'm assuming, Herman. Resolution 2268, appoint Tracy Thornton as fire chief, effective 9/21/2020. Questions? Resolution 2269, approve the construction of the new fire station located at 2704 Danville Road Southwest, not to exceed $3,250,000. Any questions? Resolutions 2270, award bid number 20023 for a, say it again for me, Charles. Charles Booth.
Ozzy Shell.
Hazy Shell, applicator for the landfill. And that is
No changes on that.
that is a new technique we're using that helps keep the garbage at night down from the wind blowing it around. It's supposed to be way
Right.
more environmentally friendly. Any questions on that? Resolution 2271, declare surplus of municipal vehicles no longer needed by the police department for drug fund. No changes? Any questions? And this one will go directly back into the drug fund, just so council is aware. Resolution 2271, declare a surplus of municipal vehicles no longer needed by the police department for the drug fund.
General fund.
General fund, that's right. This one is for general, so this needs to be corrected, please. 2271 goes general fund.
No, I'm sorry.
2171 goes.
271 drug fund, 272 general fund.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry about that. So that is general fund, it does not need to be corrected. Any questions on that, council?
No, ma'am.
Christie, and I'm going to say this, just I guess for future reference, you and I were at a DU meeting on last week, and what we really appreciated that DU did in that meeting was when they had a surplus of a vehicle, they actually told you where it was going to go back, and it went back to that department to offset that price of the new vehicle. I know we say we do that, but it looks better, I think, and it's more accurate when you do it on paper like that and make that a process. Christy, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, but I'm happy to send that to Stacy so she could share it with Tab and others, because the way in their board meeting they describe everything. It's on paper, so that if you ever have to look back at it, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily have to call Jimmy or Ray or Gary, because it explains everything.
And where
They're
that
very
money is, and
descriptive.
what that money is replacing
Yes.
the vehicle that will be replacing.
Yes.
I think it's a great way of keeping up, John. That may help in the future for acquisitions. Resolution 2273, authorize mayor to execute River Tree Systems Incorporated audit agreement. Sal?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. I think there was a question about how much per hour and how much the total fee was for the 4 hours
Yes,
by the
sir.
council. And it's $75 an hour, total of $300 for the 4 hours.
Okay, Mr. Jackson is not here yet, but I will make him aware of that.
Okay, I've emailed all the council members, so everybody should have that.
Thank you, Sal.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions with that? Resolution 2274, room occupancy fund 010, expenditure assurance. Any questions with that?
No.
Resolution 2275, Matheny Goldman proposal for Carrie Matthews Building Department. Carl?
Yeah, there's no changes unless there's questions.
Any questions? Resolution 2278, approves sidewalk replacement near West Decatur Elementary School in an amount not to exceed $25,000. Funding source is the Heritage. This is new. It was called to my attention by Mr. Jackson. I did go over. I took pictures. I did also ask Rodney, our safety fella, if he minded looking at the pictures that I sent him, and I think he did actually go to the location, and he agreed these are safety issues that need to be addressed. Any questions? And if you didn't get those, I thought I sent those, Stacy. Did I send those to you to send out, those pictures? If not, I can send to council if you'd like those. Any questions? Resolution 2277, MOU between City of Decatur and Decatur City Schools for school resource officers.
There's no changes.
Thank you, Chip. Chief, you're on the line.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Do you have anything about this that you need changing, or are you fine with it?
I'm good with it, no changes, thank you.
Very, very well. And I did also speak with Mr. Satterfield, and he is fine with all the wordage as well. Resolution number 2279, increase police offset by donations in the amount of $2,500 for the police donations revenue account.
No changes to that.
Any questions? Resolution 2280, approve Morgan County Emergency Management Communication District 911 contract. Any questions with that?
I've got an answer for Chuck and a little bit more info. He had asked the question last time. First, the conditions in there about the 911 transcript, the 72 hours has been there for the last 2 or 3 years. I found back to 2013, the reference that it was, would give the police department a reasonable time to object if the information was about to be released. And directly related to Chuck's, I reached out to 5 different departments around the area outside the county. 3 would give me an answer when I was sworn to secrecy, keeping them anonymous. The interesting part, they all have a little bit different relationship with their 911 in that they have some ownership control in there. One who we work with a lot said that they do not release anything from 911 without a court subpoena. The other 2 have not a formalized, but 911 notifies the PD and they say yes or no, and in pending investigations, those are not released until the investigation is complete. And that is typical for, all public writings are public records, basically, everything that's kept, but some personnel issues, pending investigations, financial records for business licenses, things like that, are all excluded from what is released, and it's our position that that's we've been doing it for years, and that should be the same thing. The only difference with ours is it's a contract, and these other agencies own or operate the 911, so they don't have a contract with them.
I have a question, Chip. Is that how they would get around the court subpoena? Because it clearly says in the state law that you can ask for a transcript if there's no investigation.
Correct, and it says that you can have any writings also. You said if there's not an investigation, or if there is?
No, well, number one, I'm interested why it's got to be secret, because all this should be made public. So I'm not quite sure
not
why
on
any of those.
investigations, because
No. But when you called other municipalities and they wanted to remain anonymous, that should be public information. I'm not quite sure why the
well, I'll tell
secrecy.
you why, because the one agency, the one entity that is, what I believe, the one entity that is of the opinion that we have to release everything, even if an investigation is pending, because I call people in the area, I think they don't want that hassle. The other agencies we deal with, and I deal with all these that come through, when I say, it's part of a pending criminal investigation, they say, okay, well, can we check back when the investigation's over and get it? And I say, sure, and that's the last I hear. But because I understand your argument, but if just because there's public funds being used for it, there's complete access would mean that just a civilian could sit in on interrogations of suspects, that we would have to release crime scene photos at the time we take them and things like that. And the preservation of the case for trial, and the contract says that that would be done in that it would be denied in rare circumstances. And basically it's just, if there's an ongoing criminal investigation, we don't think it should be released, and I think the law supports that.
That actually didn't have anything to do with my question. It does say in the state law very clearly, the very last clause was, anyone can ask for a transcript, sure. Okay? And that's my question is, if anyone in any given municipality or county would like a transcript of a 911, they can get that. It says it clearly in the state of Alabama code.
Correct, but
I don't disagree with you. I think that if it's in an investigation, it should not be open until that investigation is over. I don't have a problem with that.
Right, and that's what we're doing.
I just have a problem with you talk to other agencies, but they don't want you to tell them who they are. But there's clearly in the code of Alabama the rules for that. So I'm not quite sure why they're trying to be secret about it. Or do you just not want to tell us who you talked to? Or did you talk to somebody? I think that's the question.
No, I talked to 3 of the 5. 5 I did not get a response from.
Okay. Well, I think that would be the person who asked about that originally would say, if you can't reveal who they were and who you spoke to, did you really talk to them? I think that's a valid question too.
Well, Chuck has known me 8 years, and if he thinks I'm lying.
I'm not talking about Mr. Lord. I'm talking about the representative from the Decatur Daily that was here. And I don't know, Mr. Lord may wonder too. I don't know. That would be my question. But again, I don't have a problem if it's an investigation to be finished and done before that's open.
And that's what the contract calls for.
Okay. But I think any request for that afterwards, it clearly states in state law that you can get a transcript of that, sure. And it should be done quickly,
sure.
and not drug around. Mr. Jackson, good to have you. We are on N.
Thank you.
Resolution 2280, the 911 contract. Do you have any questions with that?
I do not, thank you.
Ms. Hill, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Resolution 2281, adopt FY.
Hey,
yes, ma'am.
Chief Allen wanted to state something.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chief Allen. Sorry.
Sure. I do want to make a note that generally we give all transcript requests that's not an investigation to media or whoever requested. There is a process we go through. They fill out a form, both with the police department and through 911, and we give those transcripts out now. We've not had a problem giving out the transcripts. The only complication is if there's a case involved surrounding that particular issue that they want, we may hold off on that, but everything else we give out.
Thank you, sir, and I appreciate you abiding by the state law. Resolution 2281, adopt FY21-236 gas tax funds budget. Any questions?
One moment, Paige. Stacy, I don't have anything past N. Do you have a copy that does have it? Last thing I got is the 911 contract in my copy.
There you go. I have my original. Look at this.
I got one here, Stacy, thank you.
Unless has the original changed.
Thank you, sorry.
No worries. Let me get to that page. So we're an O now, is that correct? Okay, maybe I need one, Stacy, because I think that mine does not have, did we add some things that are not on this original? No. Okay, let's look. Alrighty, resolution 2281, adopt FY '21 gas fund budgets. John?
Those are the primarily paving projects and patching and go through.
Any questions? Resolution 2282, adopt FY '21-005 Heritage Fund. Questions? John? No
It's
change?
all infrastructure projects and IT.
Gotcha. Resolution 2283, adopt FY '21 budgets for 007 Corrections Fund, 008 for Docket Fee Fund, 009 for Drug Recovery Fund, 010 for Room Occupancy Fund, 024 for School Fund, 025 for Personnel Board. John?
The only one that stands out as being different from previous years is the school fund, where they are getting one of the 4% or 25% of the SSUT, and they are picking up $200,000 in appropriations to the library, Boys and Girls Club, and we'll go through those.
Any questions? Resolution 2284, adopt FY '21-082 landfill budget. John?
Revenues exceed their planned expenses, so that's the main thing we look at.
Any question? Resolution 2285, approve FY '21-080 Point Mallard Fund budget. John?
Same thing with the enterprise fund, as long as the revenue projections are reasonable and their expenses are below their revenue, we're okay.
Ordinances for today. Ordinance number 24428, approve FY 2021 general fund budget. First reading. Unanimous consent requested. And ordinance number, John, can we do that towards the end, if you don't mind? We can get through the rest of the budget. Okay, let's do that.
Just looking for unanimous consent, otherwise we have to schedule a special meeting.
There may be some questions, so let's do that at the end if you don't mind. Ordinance number 204425, declare surplus and sale of 208 Church Street Northwest. Questions?
No changes unless you have questions.
First reading was 9/8/20. Ordinance number 24424, authorize the insurance of a $5 million revolving line of credit for the MUB Municipal Utilities Board. First reading held on 9/8/20. Questions? Alrighty, boards and committees. Board appointments, Industrial Development Board, Miss Stacy Gillum, term expiring 4/2/25. Board appointment, the IDB Board, Mr. Cedric Evans, term expiring 4/2/25. Board appointment, IDB Board, Miss Julia Roth, term expiring 4/2/23. Board appointment, IDB Board, Zachary Starnes, term expiring 4/2/23. Board appointment, IDB Board, need some help with that name again? I don't want to butcher it.
Oh, Pandia, Dr. Pandia.
Dr. Pandya, expiring 4/2/23. Again, just did not want to butcher that name. And that's all I have, and we will take up at the end the CP&C with first response, and then we will also do the budget after that, John. Is that okay? Anything from council? Thank you.
Ma'am?
Yes, oh, did Christie, yes or no?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. See you in about 10 minutes. That's where
Okay,
my
thanks.
O page has gone too. That's fine. Okay, I need call to order. Pastor Joe McKegg from Decatur Baptist Church will be leading our invocation today, and Mr. Kirby will be saying our pledge. Thank you. Yes, sir, thank you.
Let's pray together. Father, we love you. We're grateful this morning for a beautiful day. Thank you for our community. Thank you for your blessings upon it. We're grateful for how good you have been to us here in Decatur. Thank you for our citizens. Thank you for our leaders who have led us through this unprecedented time. Thank you for the courage and the grace that you've given to them. Father, I pray that you would help us as a community as we go forward to live in such a way that you could continue to bless our community and prosper us. Father, we need your wisdom. I pray for our council. I pray for our mayor and for all of our city leaders. Lord, that you would give them your wisdom and your guidance and your direction as we go forward, that we would honor you in all that we say and all that we do, that your blessings might be upon our community. Again, we thank you for how good you are and how gracious you are, and we praise your name today. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Before we do the pledge, I would ask that everyone remember the family, friends, and victims of 9/11 that we never forget. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Charles. Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Present.
Art,
Here.
Jackson,
Here.
Hill,
Here.
Kirby.
Here.
The agenda items will be acted upon if they meet the guidelines necessary to perform essential minimum functions of the governmental body or a matter of necessity to respond to COVID-19. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ard, a second by Mr. Kirby. Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Art,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
5-0. We will proceed on presentation. Proclaim September 21st as NICU Awareness Day. Mayor?
Whereas NICU Awareness Day provides an opportunity for families whose lives have been affected by NICU to share their story, to honor dedicated health professionals, and to meet others and know that they are not alone. And whereas the establishment of NICU Awareness Month will also provide visibility to research that improves the quality of life for NICU babies and their parents. Now, therefore, I, Tab Bowen, the mayor of the city of Decatur, do hereby proclaim September 30th, 2020 as NICU Awareness Day in Decatur. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are going to move the first response CP&C to the end of this meeting, so we will go through the initial agenda first.
Quick question, please, on that
Yes, sir.
proclamation. Mayor, did you say September 30th?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, it has listed 21st, so it's 30th. We will make that correction. All righty. And I'd like to say thank you. I'm not sure, Stephanie, are you on the line from Point Mallard McLean? We'd like to say thank you to Cindy Smith from Edward Jones over the weekend. She helped host with the Point Mallard folks a cleanup on the trails, and we had about 30 or 40 people out there. Keep Alabama Beautiful supplied the bags, some pickup sticks. It was a really good event, so thank you, Cindy and Edward Jones, for that. And in just a remembrance of Chief Justice Ginsburg, I will have this quote. I normally say quotes during work sessions, but I will say this in honor of her today. To make life a little better for the people less fortunate than you, that's what I think a meaningful life is. One life, not just for oneself, but for one's community. Approval of minutes. Regular meeting for July 6, 2020 at 6 p.m. Does anyone mind if I take these all together?
I don't.
Okay. Christy, are you okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we have July 8th, 2020 at 4 p.m., a special called. Special called July 10th, 2020 at 9:55. Special called July 13th, 2020 at 4:45. August 10th, 1:30 PM, special called meeting, or minutes, excuse me, and then August 11th, 1:30 PM, special called work session minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Ard and a second by Mr. Kirby. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
These minutes and meetings pass 5-0. Public hearings for today. Resolution 2264, approve request for a retail off-premise beer and wine license for,
Regan.
Sri Ganesh.
thank you, Sal, doing business as Fuel Zone at 101 6th Avenue Southeast. Sal?
Yes, good morning, Ms. Bibby, Mayor and Council, Sal Hosso, Revenue Department. This first request is a request for a transfer for alcohol license, and it's recommended for approval.
This being the time and place of public hearing, if anyone from the public would like to speak on this matter, you may speak now. No one from the public wanting to speak on Resolution 2264 will declare this public hearing closed. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kirby and a second by Mr. Ard. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2264 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Resolution 264 was approved. 265, approve request for off-premise beer and wine license for Ard Seafood, LLC, doing business as Ard Seafood Market located at 1216 Beltline Road, Decatur, Alabama 35601. Sal?
Yes, ma'am. This is a request for a new alcohol license at an already existing business, and it's recommended for approval also.
This being the time and place of a public hearing, if anyone from the public would like to speak on this resolution, you may speak now. No one from the public wanting to speak on Resolution 2265 will declare that public hearing closed. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kirby and a second by Mrs. Hill. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Abstain.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2265 is approved with a vote of 4-0 with one abstention. Resolution 2266, approve MUB expenditure of $459,310 for FY 2021 boring contracts.
Hey, good morning, Ms. Bibby, Council, Mayor. This is Jimmy Evans with Decatur Utilities. This is to furnish all labor, equipment, machinery, and tools to perform natural gas, water, and electric work throughout the year. We awarded this contract to Armor Contracting in 2019. The contract was set up with the option of 2 additional one-year extensions as long as Decatur Utilities was satisfied with its performance and the pricing remained firm. Both of those criteria have been met, and we recommend awarding this contract for a second year for $459,310.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Kirby and a second by Mr. Ard. Thank you, Jimmy. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2266 is approved 5-0. Resolution 2267, reappoint Billy E. Cook Jr. as municipal court judge.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Have a motion by Mrs. Hill, a second by Mr. Jackson. Discussion? Have anything to say, Judge?
No, ma'am.
All right, roll call.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Absolutely.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2267 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I thank the council for your support.
Thanks.
It's very meaningful. Thank you.
Resolution 2268, appoint Tracy Thornton as fire chief effective 9/21/2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ard, a second by Mr. Kirby. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2268 is approved 5-0. Chief, are you in the house? Thanks, Chief. Resolution 2269, approve the construction of the new fire station located at 2704 Danville Road Southwest, not to exceed $3,250,000. Carl or Chief, who wants to speak on that one?
I guess I can, yeah, this would be the money to build the new fire station there at Danville Road in Modus. That's about what I know of it.
All right, Chief, do you have anything from the architect?
No, ma'am. Other than they give us some preliminary drawings and everything, it seems to be moving forward. I think on this 3.25, John, if you have anything that you want to add on there?
That includes the construction and the architect fees. And engineering, I think there was like 17.
And obviously, these are all in process right now, with the architect and engineering, things like that. Okay.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Kirby, do I have a second? By Ms. Hill, thank you. Sorry for the discussion in front of it. Any more discussion?
Yes, I think that, first of all, I want to state that I am 100% behind the new fire station. However, I do believe that this is putting the cart before the horse, that we do not even have the engineering completed, so we don't know how much it can be. We're telegraphing that we're willing to spend $3 million, and anybody's bid on that would be ridiculous to come in under that. So I think that we should wait until the engineering comes in and see what it is before we go out for this. And that has been the past, what we have done.
Any other discussion?
What are we looking at? Maybe 6 months in the construction, maybe longer?
For construction.
Ready to move in, basically.
It'd probably 12 to 18 months.
Well, thanks.
When they start.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
No.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2269 is approved with a vote of 4-1. Resolution 2270, award bid number 20023 for Posse Shell applicator for the landfill. Charles?
Yes, ma'am. Council President Bibby, Mayor and Council, it's Charles Booth, Parks and Agent for the city. We solicited bids for this piece of equipment. We got one response from LSC Environmental, and the amount is $71,090. We recommend the award.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kirby, a second by Mr. Jackson. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2270 is awarded 5-0. Resolution 2271 declares surplus of municipal vehicles no longer needed by the police department for the drug fund. Becky?
Becky Thompson, Purchasing Department. Yes, this is asking permission for the police department to surplus these vehicles. These vehicles will go back to, the money will go back to the drug fund because these were seized by the police department.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Kirby. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jackson. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2271 is passed with a vote of 5-0. Resolution 2272 declares surplus of municipal vehicles no longer needed by the police department for the general fund. Becky?
Yes, these vehicles actually belong to the police department, and from what I understand, most of them are in pretty bad shape, and the police department will work with a company called IAA, which is Insurance Auto Auction company. They store everything at their complex across the river, and they actually come and pick up all the vehicles. And police departments work with them for quite a while, and they do a good job.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kirby and a second by Mr. Ard. Discussion?
Is there a reason we work with IAA and not Copart, just out of curiosity?
It is Copart. They bring it to Copart. It originally, I believe it is Copart that is across the river.
Yeah,
But
that's
the
Copart over by
company-
Calhoun, but IAA
Yes.
is farther in Limestone County.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was assuming it was the same.
No, they're not the same. I was just wondering if they gave us a better price or what.
Chief may be on the line. They can maybe answer that.
Chief Allen, are you on the line?
I'm good with it, Chief. I mean, I'm just curious as to why we went that route. Copart's a much larger operation, and I thought maybe we might get a better deal or situation with them. So anyway, I was just curious.
And I am on the line, and I don't have an answer for that. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2272 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Thank you, Becky. You do a fabulous job with that. Resolution 2273, authorize the mayor to execute River Tree Systems Incorporated audit agreement. Sal, and I think you had some answers for Mr. Jackson's questions.
Yes, ma'am. This is an addendum to the 3-year contract authorized by the mayor back in March. There was a question of what the minimum charge was for the 4 hours. That's a total of $300 for the 4 hours, $75 per hour. And that's the charge on the no finding audits. That's the minimum charge on an audit where they don't find, they have no positive findings to the city of Decatur. So.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ard, second by Mrs. Hill. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2273 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Resolution 2274, Room Occupancy Fund 010, Expenditure Assurance. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Kirby and a second by Mrs. Hill. Any discussion?
Yes, I would like to say that I believe that the Hospitality Association should be confirmed, but it is the responsibility of the city council to take care of the matters of the city, and by doing this, you may hamper any and future city councils, so I will not support it.
Any other discussion?
I did read the resolution. It merely says them to be consulted, and keep in mind that they asked for this tax to foster certain events which brings people to pay taxes to Decatur. So if the money is not going to be used for those things, then certainly they'd want the tax removed.
Yeah, I understand the resolution to be stated that way as well, and I understand that any council could do whatever they wanted with those funds. I just thought that the open line of communication and making sure it was something that generated revenue, that was tourism product development, would be beneficial.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby.
Aye.
Ard.
No.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2274 was passed 4-1. Resolution 2275, Matheny Goldman, proposal for Carrie Matthews Building. Carl, I know this one's yours.
Yes, Mayor, Council. This is to appropriate some funds so I can get an architect started with the renovations for the Carrie Matthews Building due to the settling of the floors.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jackson, a second by Mr. Kirby. Discussion.
Mr. Jackson, you had some thoughts when this whole process started as far as where this needs to be and the community it needs to serve? Are you happy with where this is going?
I am. I just think that we have to refurbish this building. We should have done it quite some time ago. It is a place where kids go, and it's basically a safe haven for those kids. The floor is in a terrible situation, and there are other aspects of it that need to be repaired as well, and I think this accomplishes that.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I will say the same thing that I did about the fire station. I do support this 100%. However, we haven't even gone out for the engineering, much less the how much this is going to cost. I think that we are telegraphing how much we're willing to spend, and I think you're doing things prior to when they should be done. I believe that this should be the work of the future council. I also think that between this and the fire, we are pulling the general fund unassigned balance below $1 million, and I don't think that that's a good thing, so I will not support it.
Carl, you're on the line, right?
Yes, ma'am.
We actually had engineering done quite a bit ago. I'm going to say closer to 2 years, and council had that at the time. Actually, we did a whole work session on that. You showed us the proposals on what we could possibly do, and we addressed it, gosh, about 2 years ago, correct?
Yeah, I got some estimates from I guess actually this architect firm. We've done some geotech looking at the underneath the building. And the architect looked at it, he did give some general costs for rehabbing the inside of the building to completely building a new building. And yes, these are estimates, and until we get it designed and bid out, that's all it truly is, but I feel comfortable with the numbers we have.
And we'll have competitive bids on that, so that everybody's basically going to come in with their lowest figure, correct, Carl?
We would hope so, yes.
Okay, and so I think that this is something that should have been done years ago, and the sooner we get started on this, the better. I understand Mr. Ard's position, but this is something that should have been done quite some time ago, and it should not be held off any longer.
And I will add, Chief, that we also had the fire department go out. Doors could not shut and open properly, therefore they had to be taken off the hinges. It was a very big safety hazard. I've been out there several times, so this needs to be addressed. I'm with
I'm
you,
not
Mr.
saying
Jackson.
that it shouldn't. What I'm saying is that the proper engineering has not been done yet. What we did is that, as Carl said, they looked at it to give advice. And if you read what's in here, it all talks of estimates as opposed to having things done. I'm just saying, again, we're putting the cart before the horse.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby?
Aye.
Hard?
No.
Jackson?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Kirby?
Aye.
Resolution 2275, approved 4-1. Resolution 2278, approved sidewalk replacement near West Decatur Elementary School in the amount not to exceed $25,000. Funding source, the Heritage. John?
Was a sidewalk deficiency pointed out by Councilman Jackson. A number of people have looked at it, and that was the recommendation on that engineer.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jackson, a second by Mr. Kirby. Any discussion?
I simply want to say that Public Works came out and cleared the sidewalk, Ms. Bibby, and when we looked at it the other day, it's actually much worse. And it's an accident waiting to happen for some kids walking down there, so I appreciate the council considering this.
And again, I did we made pictures, and actually Rodney from Safety did look at that and concurred with that decision. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby?
Aye.
Hard?
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Kirby?
Aye.
Resolution 2278 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Resolution 2277, MOU between City of Decatur and the Decatur City Schools for the School Resource Officer, the SRO program.
It's the same contract as last year. It just provides the agreement for the school resource officers from the PD to work in the schools.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Jackson, second by Mr. Kirby. Discussion? think we have a scan that, I don't think anyone from school system is here, but I have spoken with Mr. Satterfield, and he is in favor.
And they've already signed it, the school board members.
Roll call, please.
Bibby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2277 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Resolution 2279, increased police offset by donations in the amount of $2,500 from the police donations revenue account.
This is funding that cut in from a private entity when we shop with the cop program. They donate $2,500.
Thank you for that, Chief. Mr. Kirby, did you have a motion?
Motion, yes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Jackson. Discussion. For anyone who didn't hear, that was a $2,500 donation to Shop with Cops that happens in early December. Roll call, please.
Bibby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2279 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Resolution 2280, approve Morgan County Emergency Management Communication District, the 911 contract. Chip.
This is a renewal of the contract we had last year and the years before that. The only difference, it's verbatim other than, I believe $1,742 and some change per month went up, and I understand that has to do with licensing for some of the software but that is, other than that, it's the same thing we've been signing.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Ard. Mr. Kirby, take a second. Any discussion?
Yes, at our last work session, the concern was brought up about accessibility to transcripts. And I think we're all in agreement in general terms that there's something like a serious investigation going on, certain records cannot be immediately accessed. But I did ask at that point if we contacted or would contact some major players around the state to see what they're doing and whether or not the aspects of what they're doing and whether or not they comply with the state law. And I'm going to equate that this time to 3 simple questions that can be yes or no. Did we call Birmingham?
No.
Did we call Montgomery?
No.
Did we call Mobile?
No.
Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
No.
Resolution 2280 is approved 4-1. Resolution 2281, adopt FY 21 002, 003, and 006 gas fund budgets. John.
Good morning, Council President, Council Mayor. This particular resolution pertains to the gas tax, and I will point out the paving projects that are included in these taxes. In Fund 003, for a second. Let's do 002 first. 002, street resurfacing of Fremont Road, Brook Manor Drive Southeast, and Wood Trail Road Southwest. Total of $200,664. The gas tax 003 is $25,000 for road repairs to the patch crew. 8th Street from 7th Avenue to 14th Avenue. Wildwood Circle, McCartney Street, Church to Highway 20. 7th Avenue Southwest, 3rd to 2nd. McCartney Street Northwest, Highway 20 to Market. Cherry Street Northwest, 1st Street Northwest, 44th to 6th. Madison Street Northwest, Vine to Kane. Westmead from Azalea to Beltline. Lexington Avenue Southwest, and that totals $380,690. The last gas tax is Fund 6 and Regency and First Street Southwest, End of Street to Memorial for a total of $212,352. The one other project that comes out of 61 is the capital account is the Central Parkway Service Road. So those are all the projects pertaining to that particular.
John, are you saying that 061 should be added to?
No, sir, it's not something.
So that will be separate?
That's something you don't have to address.
Okay.
That's just capital plan.
Okay.
But it is being addressed.
Well, we're bringing it to your attention.
Gotcha.
So moved.
Does not require.
Have a motion by Mr. Kirby. Do I have a second? Mr. Ard, and discussion. Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard. Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2281 is approved 5-0. Resolution 2282, adopt FY21-005 Heritage Fund budget. John?
Heritage Fund is a fund that's provided by the state to use for local infrastructure. In this particular budget this year, on the buildings, we have ADA compliance at $250,000 and an infrastructure reserve of $500,000. That's added to the infrastructure reserve that was in the 20 budget, so that will make it somewhere in $1.2 to $1.3 million reserved. There's some more. Improvements other than buildings, which is primarily IT, but other things. There's litter grates for $50,000, and IT, new hosts, security cameras and upgrades, switch upgrades, and the new NAS totaling $285,000. So the total budget is $1,035,000.
I have a motion by Mr. Ard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kirby. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard. Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2282 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Resolution 2283, adopt FY21 budgets for 007, Corrections Fund, 008 for Docket Fee Fund, 009 for Drug Recovery Fund, 010 for Room Occupancy Fund, 024 for School Fund, and 025 for Personnel Fund. John?
Okay, Corrections Fund is a fund shared by the police department and the court. Court uses it primarily for personnel and some minor operating expenses. Police have some minor operating expenses like repairs, minor repairs to equipment. The one particular big ticket item in there is the $100,000 of the total jail bill we take out of there. Total budget of $619,254.
Excuse me one second. That's $100,000 for the jail bill? I was thinking it was $100,000 per month.
It is, but we only take 100, the rest of it comes out of general fund. This comes out of, we take $1 million out of there.
All right, thank you.
Docket, same thing, basically, the court is personnel costs, some operating expenses. And the total budget there is $222,900. Drug seizure. Is just minor operating expenses, total budget of $57,000. Room occupancy is basically debt service to an expense item of $141,960. The revenue on that is much more, but it rolls over into that account, as discussed. School fund. And their projections are basically based on our projections for revenue, so they get a percentage cut, so it's not a firm number. If they get 1 or 4%, they get so much. If they get 25% of SSUT, they get 25% of whatever that number is. We just plug in budgeted numbers, so there's a reference point. Sales and use tax at $10,666,667. SSUT at a $500,000. And then they have their millages. They're 3.6 at 2.91 mil. They're 9 mil at 7.285. Their auto 3.6 at 280. Their auto 9 mil at 700. They get tobacco stamp revenue of 140. They get tobacco tax revenue of 70. There's transfers from through us from DU, electric of 390 and water of 341,306 for a total revenue number of $23,282,973. We put the appropriations in totaling $200,000. That was the library at 64, child advocacy at 21, youth symphony at 15, and Boys and Girls Club at 100. And then they have some minor expenses. They pay part of the revenue audits and part of the tobacco stamp costs. Personnel board is a transfer out of general fund to the personnel fund. It's basically personnel and operating expenses. Nothing unusually or remarkable. Total budget of $910,066.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Ard and a second by Mr. Kirby. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2283 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Resolution 2284, adopt FY21-082 landfill budget. John?
This is a total budget where revenue of $6,353,523 exceeds their anticipated expenses of $6,266,528.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ard, second by Mrs. Hill. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2284 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Resolution 2285, adopt FY21-080 Point Mallard Fund.
Similar to landfill, their revenue is anticipated revenue $5,177,700, which is above their estimated expenses of $5,165,536. Just one comment, so that you're aware. We anticipate for FY20 having to, based on the TVA agreement, they have to maintain a positive cash balance, and because of COVID, they're not in a positive cash balance basis, so we're going to have to add revenue to their, or cash to their cash balance at the end of this year.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kirby and a second by Mr. Ard. Discussion.
At the end of this fiscal year,
Yes, sir.
we're talking at the end of next month.
Yes, it'll be an audit adjustment.
Okay.
Any other
What will that
discussion?
make
general fund, unassigned fund balance?
I have no real good feel for where we're going to finish
No,
this
no,
year. I know we're in
I
the
mean,
black.
At the end of the year. I mean, right, when we make this adjustment.
We're going, yeah, but that adjustment will take into account the net effect of FY '20.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, I got you.
So in order to give you that, I would have to know that.
So we really won't know that until like December.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2285 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Ordinance number 24428, approve FY 2021 general fund budget. We're going to put that at the end. We'll probably have some discussion there. So we're going to ordinance number 204425, declare surplus and sale of 208 Church Street Northwest. Allen.
Yes, ma'am. Canaan Community Christian Church at St. Paul has approached the city about purchasing a lot. It's behind their property. They're looking to do some expansion. So we're just requesting the authorization to sell this to Canaan Community Christian Church at St. Paul's.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Jackson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kirby. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Ordinance number 204425 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Ordinance number 204424, thank you, Alan. Authorize the insurance of $5 million revolving credit to MUB, Municipal Utility Board, first reading 9/8/20. Steve, good to see you today.
Thank you. Ms. Bibby Baber, Mayor Council, Steve Perkle, CFO Decatur Utilities. This is renewal of a $5 million revolving line of credit with a 2-year maturity. There'll be an interest rate of tax-free variable rate equivalent to the Wall Street Journal Prime minus 1%.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Ard. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Hill. Second by Ms. Hill. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Ordinance number 204424 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Thank you again, Steve. Boards and committees, board appointments. The IDB Board, Ms. Stacy Gillum, term expiring 4/2/25.
So moved.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Jackson, second by Mr. Ard. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
That is a 5-0 appointment. Board appointment, IDB Board, Mr. Cedric Evans, term expiring 4/2/25.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Jackson. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ard. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
5-0, will that be appointment? The board appointment for the IDB Board, Ms. Julia Roth, term expiring 4/2/23.
So moved.
Mr. Ard, do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Hill, discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
5-0 approval. Board appointment, IDB Board, Zachary Starnes, term expiring 4/2/23.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Jackson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Kirby, discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Aye.
Jackson, Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
5-0 appointment. Board appointment to IDB, Dr.
India.
Pendia, term expiring 4/2/23.
So moved.
Second.
Hill, and I have a second with Mr. Ard. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
5-0. Okay. Well, that is all we have for now, and we will now go back to the very beginning to the First response CPNC extension, extended and public hearing set. David, you want to come on up? Decatur Fire Department representative, you want to come on up so we can all be close for this? Council, you should have copies of the CPNC. If you do not, we can make those for you. Mr. Kirby, would you like to go in to some discussion of what has happened? Would you like for me to?
Go ahead.
Every year, the ambulance provider is required by our ordinance to turn in and be approved a CNPC. That was done this year. I actually have one of the original stamps. First Response did that on actually the 11th day of June, but it was stamped on the 12th day of June of this year, 2020 at 10:50. And what happens then generally is our fire department will get that. If there are any questions on this application, they will then contact First Response and ask them to answer those questions more appropriately. And hopefully all that gets done. They take that to the ARB committee. The ARB committee, they ask any questions they may have, get clarification. At that time, they would then recommend it to council. Last week, what day was it, Thursday, I believe? We had a meeting of that, and let me go back to this because it will come up. Their CPNC, as I said, was posted the 12th day of June 2020. Our first communication with First Response was August 28th of 2020. On their application, there were some questions that the fire department had that went back to First Response. First Response answered, I believe, again. Then it came back, some more questions went back. At the meeting on Thursday, it was a bit chaotic. I did talk to some board members afterward, and they actually did grant a 6-month stay because I think it was a bit confusing on the CPNC and all of the questions that come up with our ordinance. And I believe your attorney, or you, David, made some very good points, and you should actually have counsel the current ordinance if there's any reference made to those. At that time, Mr. Kirby was at that meeting as well. It felt as if we were not making very much progress, and so we would like to today have First Response. We're going to go through this CPNC. There are several questions that we're going to ask David or his legal attorney to answer. And we're not going to take a long time, David. We're going to ask you the question. You're going to answer quickly. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Bibby?
Yes, sir.
Council President,
Yes, ma'am.
what, you said June, what was the date in June, the first communication?
No, that was when First Response turned in their CPNC.
Application.
Okay, by then, what was the date, June?
June 12th is when it was stamped
June
by the
12th.
clerk's office. Yes, ma'am.
And then August 28th, we replied?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, Chip.
One point of clarification, you said that the CPNC application is yearly, and it's not, they filed their original, what y'all, 8 years ago? When they started under the new ordinance, it's an every 5-year process, so this is the first one that's been done in that amount of time. On Thursday, I will point out that the representatives of First Response, Chief England, myself, and Chief Thornton agreed to have a sit-down to go through the questions and get those answered. And we all agreed to that. 6 months may seem long. I don't think it's a problem to do it shorter than that if you want to, but I think it's premature at this point to be discussing specifics of the answers, because once those answers are given, then first there'll be police and fire review, and then the ARB review, and then referred to the council, which at that time there would be scheduled another public hearing. So if we're having a public hearing today on the answers, then that is skipping several steps, which we're going to have to come back to after we have sit-down meetings with them, when the ARB makes a recommendation and when it comes back to the council.
Mr. Alexander, actually, the members of the ARB were very confused why you would just sit down meeting in private. This should be a public matter, and that was from the board members themselves. And there is a process. It's 10 days notification in the paper, and actually, the city council can act without an ARB recommendation.
Of course they can.
And so that is why we're doing this today, because your ARB, or our ARB committee, is a bit done with it. And that's a nice way of saying it. And so we're going to do this publicly. We're going to get it over with today. And if the questions are satisfactory to the fire department, then we will post this. Ms. Gilly will put that in the paper. It will run for 10 days. We will either put that on the October 5th meeting, or we'll call a special called meeting after that 10-day period, and we'll either pass it or not pass it. Any other questions?
Let me inject one other thing. They, like the city, need a contract with 911, and 911, to do their work, needs that contract signed by October the 1st. And so they're put in a very difficult position with the city not acting in a timely manner in this whole thing. They don't need to sign a new contract if they're not going to be here.
I believe we ran into this last year when we were trying to get this new ordinance put in place.
Hey, Chairperson, I want to comment on behalf of first response before we begin. The questions you mentioned, and correctly so, that the application was filed in a timely manner by first response on June the 12th with the clerk here in the city. The ordinance, by its specific language, required that the investigation be conducted and completed within 30 days. Within 30 days by Mr. England, by the representatives of the city. That was not done, right, within that 30-day period.
And that
all
is,
of these questions that we're going to be asked.
That is in section 3-13, investigation of application. Council, you should have that. And it does state the ARB, with the assistance of the Decatur Police Department and the Fire Department, shall investigate the facts of the representation set out in the application within 30 days to make written findings as a result of its investigation. The findings shall include, then go there, and then it does say there, after that, there is a no less than 15 days, more than 30 days after the written findings described in section 313, the ARB shall hear any relevant responses. Yes, sir, that is the...
It wasn't even until around 90 days that the first response was even contacted with any formal questions. Just want to point that out from a timing perspective, that this delay was not caused by first response.
Council President Page.
Yes, ma'am.
I noticed that. That's what I was confirming, the date when they submitted and when we replied. Is there a reason why it took us that long?
Our position is that the application, because it was not complete, was never filed. So it's not ready for us to review it until the complete application is filed.
Okay.
But did you not have to tell them that it was not complete? I mean, I would think that if someone gave me something incomplete, I would tell them, hey, this needs to be completed.
My understanding is that those discussions were ongoing. We've got an email that shows later, but we have the fire department has constant discussions with first response about information that needs to be gathered, and I don't know, Ashley could speak to it more, but just because a piece of paper is filed doesn't mean the application is complete and ready to review.
It does say, though, in our ordinance that you helped write, Chip, that all this would be in written communications to first response. Did that come to you in written form until before or after the 28th of August?
First communication was actually...
In writing.
In writing, was actually an email, August 28th, 2020, 8:48 a.m.
I guess what I'm stating, Chip, is this, that if we're going to make the process and procedures, we ourselves must follow those. And so when it says very clearly it needs to be in written form, that's great, they're having communications, but it really doesn't mean a hill of beans unless you do it like the procedure says. If y'all like to change that, that's something that y'all can most certainly do in the future. But we as a municipality, I think that's why people are so annoyed with elected officials now. It seems like we want to make the rules, but we don't want to apply them to ourselves.
But it would seem that what the argument that's being made is, if there's a time delay, we say it's because they didn't file the paperwork properly. They say it's because we didn't respond fast enough. The remedy cannot be, well, we just go ahead and approve the application then incomplete. it has to be complete before it can be considered by the ARB, by the fire department, by the police department, and by the council.
Well, wasn't there just a meeting? So have they not completed the application by now?
Yes.
No, they were asked at the meeting Thursday, how many trucks do you have? And they wouldn't answer that then, and that's one of the questions. And that's an ongoing issue. And
Christie, that's why we're here today, Chip. We got this. We're gonna,
Miss Beebe.
one second. Christie, what we're gonna do here is today, we're gonna go through these questions that the fire department have a question with, that they feel like the answers that have been given to them are not sufficient. We're gonna take care of that today, and if first response chooses not to answer those, then this will be a very simple process. If they answer them, and the Kettering Fire and Rescue, who's here in front of me, as well as a 911 representative, if they answer those to their satisfaction, I think we can carry on.
Well, Council President, I guess hearing about this, I'm a little alarmed and concerned that council has to be involved when they just had a meeting, but yet we did notify them their application wasn't complete, but it took us quite a while to do that. That's a little bit of a concern that it took that long, and then they couldn't resolve this in a meeting. That's concerning.
Should have been at the meeting, even more concerning. Yes, Mr. Kirby?
I had pointed out when this whole process started, when we had a previous ordinance, and it's only this new CPNC application required is in the new ordinance, but as we were evolving from the old ordinance to the new ordinance, I pointed out back at that time already that the city was not following its own policy then. We've had one meeting about this since the new ordinance has been in effect, and in that meeting, I pointed out the city was not following its own requirements. So that seems to be our theme, including the fact that we refuse to go to outside professional sources to help us put this ordinance in place.
All right, do that, Mr. Kirby. Okay, Chief, what's what we're going to do? We're going to start with, I have the question that is first in red ink that we need to get, I guess, clarification is, oh, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong one. Let's go to this one. It's under C, whether or not the applicant has ever been arrested. Is that the first question y'all have? I'm sorry, I would tell you the page number, council, but it's not.
Page number 2.
Oh,
The first email.
Well, I'm going by the application itself, David.
Yes, ma'am.
so, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
All right. This,
I don't think the council has a copy page.
I'm looking at my email page.
all right.
Who would that be from?
Chief Thornton, you emailed it to me. So Christie, I'll email that to you right quick. Mr. Jackson, do you need a copy?
Thank you.
Okay, that's what we'll do.
312E. 312E would be where that would
I
be found.
apologize, thought y'all had copies. Let's see. Everyone does have a copy of the ordinance, though, is that correct?
Do you guys have a copy of the
Great.
CPNC?
We do.
I have copies for everybody if you'd like that.
Okay, so you have copies, David, of your,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
questions and answers? Okay. Well, then let me send this to Ms. Hill. Christie, that was just sent.
Thank you.
He actually has physical copies. Is that correct, David? You have
Yes, ma'am.
copies? Okay. Yes.
You go by the one this is actually, the first one. We have a question on it.
Okay. Since these are not numbered, what we'll do is I'll just go page for page, and we'll make sure everybody's on the same one. The number of vehicles, is that what you, okay.
Pass those along, please.
Thank you.
Paige, I'm still waiting for the email to come through.
It's kind of large, Christie, it may take a moment or two.
Okay.
Chuck, do you have this? There you go. Oh. Are there two different ones, David, or just one?
No, ma'am, it's going to be the same one as you have.
Stacy,
Yes.
can you try and pass that up to Christie if she doesn't get that, and we'll start talking. Okay, everyone has a copy now. Ms. Hill, yours should be coming. First page is like this. It states it's the CMPC. The second is the Healthcare Investment Group Incorporated. Third is Section 312, Application and Certification. Go to the next page and go to B, where it says the number of vehicles the applicant desires to operate in class, size, design, and color scheme, insignia, name, monogram, or other distinguishing characteristics to be used to distinguish the applicant's vehicle, and a list of equipment to be carried on board said vehicle. The number of vehicle the applicant desires to operate, vehicles, I guess is what that should be, it's a typo, the applicant desires to operate. Okay, David, hit us with what that answer is.
Yes, ma'am. Our answer being on this, we talked about the E350s, E450 type 2s that we operate, type 3s that we operate, so we covered that. We covered about the insignias, everything. It seems to be the question of how many do we desire to operate. I received an email September the 10th asking basically the same question. And my reply to that email was, in the event the exact number is more difficult to determine because of call volume. First response consistently operates 4 to 5 ALS units, 2 to 3 BLS units, for a total of 8 units. So we desire to operate 8 units. That's what it has been taking at this point in time. With that being said, we may need 2 more additional units not operating, but just as fill-ins for our preventative maintenance programs.
And let me stop you there. It does state in our ordinance, I don't have it noted right now, that, 5 ambulances at the least we expect you to have on the road at one time? Is that correct? 5. So in this
I don't think it
ordinance.
says.
No, it doesn't.
The old one did say
3.
But I don't think they're
So this one has no number that we expect him to have on the road?
sufficient to cover.
Yes.
All right, well, that may be something I want to look at.
So the total 8 that they're operating?
Yes, we operate.
Desire.
We desire to operate 8. We need 2 addition.
Well, I don't really like that desire to operate. I need to know that you're operating 8.
Oh, yes, ma'am, we
That
operate.
language,
Yes,
David,
ma'am.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yes, ma'am, 8
Mr.
ambulances.
Childers, could you be a little clearer? Do you ever intend to have less than 8?
On some days, on Sundays, when the call volume is low, there again, we do system status management on a number of calls that come in, and we sometimes drop down, we sometimes add trucks. It's constant between the 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 there. There's been times where we've had a long out-of-town trip, then we might had to have put on the 9th truck for that, but that's very, very seldom, very
So
seldom.
if there was a problem based upon that estimating that you and the fire department could get together and iron
Sure,
that out?
we could backfill. Yes, sir.
Okay, David, give me a specific number of E350s, E250s you have, please.
Ms. Page, I printed that off. Let me see if I have that. And I do not have that information with me about what we have right now. I do know that we have 10 units at this point in time. I think we have a few more that have a sticker, because we have to buy a sticker every year for the city of Decatur. We do have some of those, but those trucks are going to be taking out of service because once the CPNC is approved, we're going to be reinvesting in our capital overlay plan and purchasing additional ambulances at that point in time.
Why is that a hard question to answer? I answered the police chief. How many fire trucks do you have? 700 trucks? 8 front
I guess that's what I'm trying to understand too.
I mean, all they're asking is how many do you have?
Well, wait. I mean, I guess that's a loaded question too. You have 8 fire trucks. How many do you have that you have reserved at the training center?
8 fire truck,
I don't disagree with you, Ms. Hill, and David, I would like for you to have the exact numbers of the 350s, the 250s, the mileage, everything for all of those. And if you could get that to the fire department, that'd be great before we print the 10-day notice for the hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
And I get the call volume. I get that, there may be days that the call volume is less, but we will never know until it happens, that there's something major that then you may have to have more ambulances come out. So I guess what I'm looking for is that total number that we would have if we needed it.
We have
That's what
14.
the question calls for, it's what they desire.
Yeah.
That's actually what the application calls for.
The application does say what they desire. Again, I think there's some good, and we always said this document would probably never be perfect, and we would have to change some things. So, and I agree with you, Christie. My question is, in our last ordinance, we expected no less than 3, which I thought was insufficient, but we took that out. So now we have no number that we expect to be on the ground all the time.
So you're saying we went from an old ordinance saying a minimum of 3 to a new ordinance that doesn't give us a number?
Minimum none.
That's what we said, and the basis of that is because our position was, and we understood their position at the time was, that a specific number didn't matter. What was key is that they made their times. And if they could do that with 30 ambulances, or if they could make their time with 3, we were not going to make business decisions for them.
And Ms. Page, we actually have those numbers for you.
Okay.
We just pulled it up. I told you I'd printed it off, but I just didn't bring it.
Well, we're going to go back to that's B, and you're going to give me the
Yes,
exact.
3 250s, 3 3500 GMCs, or Chevrolet, excuse me. One, we did have 4, but one was involved in a motor vehicle accident, so that one is probably going to be taken up. Well, it's out of service now, but that one is probably going to be discarded at that point. We have 6 350s. We have a total of 14 units that is licensed for, and the total licensed permitted for the use of Decatur. We have 14 right now, but there again, those are dropping off this year.
Okay, so would the 14 be the number that goes there then? I heard David say desired, and if that's the language.
Yeah, well, that's the question on the application is desired amount.
I guess what I would like to see though is, and Chip, when we redo this ordinance, I'd like to see us have a specific number, because there should be some sort of criteria that we use to say that we need 8 here, or we need 10, or we need 25. There should be some sort of history that says that we need a certain number, rather than just having a number that says, a question that says, how many do you desire? I'd like to see something in our ordinances that gives a specific number as to what we require.
And honestly, in the early versions, we had a number,
Yeah.
and the pushback was, it's a business decision. What's important is the coverage. And Chief Grandy and I talked it through and decided, okay, no number. If they make their times, that's what we're concerned about, not as much that you have so many out. And that may have been a bad decision.
No, I fully understand your logic behind
But
that.
that was the mindset. It wasn't that we were trying to remove a standard, but if they felt they could make the time with 4 ambulances, more power to them. What we were concerned about is making the time.
And I understand your logic, and I'm not arguing that. I'm simply saying that, all it takes is for us to require 3 or 4 or 5, and then we actually need 6, and somebody's family member dies or gets in a bind because we don't have the exact coverage. And I don't know that you can ever cover that, but I think that there should be a reasonable expectation of.
And I've got no problem with that. And the reason for the question is just how many are available, how many are in the fleet in the event that there's something they need to bring more in. That's what the question is designed to do.
All right.
Thank you for clarifying that, Chip, because that's what I was about to ask.
14 is your answer.
14, and we daily operate 8.
Okay. Questions? Does that answer your question?
Pretty well, we didn't get that answer before.
Okay.
To me, it'd be just simple saying, this is ambulance number one, it's this age, this files, this is the equipment, or this is ambulance two, but we didn't.
Okay, and that's fine, that's why we're here today. And then each of these ambulances are permitted, they're permitted by the city of Decatur, and the fire department does actually look at these to give the permits, and at any time, the fire chief can examine any ambulance you have, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So that is still in the ordinance, right?
Permitted by the state of Alabama, or couldn't hear.
Yes, sir.
That at any time, the fire chief or whoever the fire chief puts in lieu of that position can at any time request any ambulance to come and they look at it and give it an inspection. Okay, so that is in there. Okay, very good. So let's go to the next question.
Hey, Paige.
Yes, ma'am.
I still don't have that email. Would y'all mind sending it to another email address? Maybe it's not coming through because I'm on
And it could
the
be
same
my
phone.
phone. I'll tell you, Chief Thornton, could you please send that to
Mr.
Miss?
Outside, I'll get there, so it's not-
Thank you. If you'll send that to her, mine is definitely not sending. Okay, that is B. Anything else on B? Is there any follow-up with the class of vehicles, anything like that? Chief? Okay. Okay, next question, which would be which number or letter?
Are we going straight to CPSC?
No, we're going, the only ones that you have questions with.
So the next one would be, the one we have here is a list of equipment.
Which email would that be?
So is that going to be under B, still B?
It is.
Okay, so we're still under B. I believe it's the next page, ladies and
Should
gentlemen.
be page 5, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, again, these aren't numbered. We may want to number those in the
The
future.
15th.
And what was asking for here is first response first response has an ALS license through the state, and they also have they're also licensed critical care service. So we're trying to figure out what type of equipment they have on their trucks, because we have to work in conjunction with them. If they do have a critical care license, that's going to make their equipment required by the state. That's with additional medications, additional equipment, and things like that. And we're just trying to find out if they have that, so our crews can be aware that they give, if first response and their medics decide to give a certain type of medication, that patient's going to quit. So we're trying to figure this out so we can make our crews aware of the situation.
Okay, so do you only need to know what's on the critical care ambulances or all of
We need a list
them?
of all their equipment.
Okay.
And that also goes into play to make sure that they have the additional required equipment that we request them to have on the trucks also.
All right, Mr. Childers, how many critical care ambulances do you have?
In the state of Alabama, when the state started governing critical care, you applied with your documentation with your medical director and showed that you could provide the medications and things of that nature to get the critical care license. At this point in time, we do not have a critical care paramedic, so therefore we can't operate a critical care truck. In addition to that, and what Ashley's talking about of notifying his people of what they see our people doing, a critical care specialty care truck never runs a 911 call, never runs a scene call. A critical care truck, specialty care truck, goes from a hospital to another hospital with the patient at that point in time. That's what a critical care truck is supposed to do. And
So you have none now, right?
we have none now.
Okay.
We have the
Let's
license
go-
for it.
Okay, we're gonna expedite this. so
Yes,
We're
ma'am.
not gonna talk a lot. The others, then, do you need what they have, the equipment on all the others?
Ma'am?
Do you need the equipment on all the
I've
others?
asked for a list, and I have not received one. And just to clarify a little bit what Mr. Childers is saying, the critical care truck, that's incorrect. The critical care truck can provide services on scene in the state of Alabama. Now, you have to have a.
Okay, well, he's admitted he doesn't have one, so he doesn't have, so we really, that's a moot point. All right, David, do you have the list of the 14 ambulances that you do have? I know you have 8 on the top. Do you have a list of those, of what is on those?
Council President, that is the list of all equipment which is on the units that is required by the state of Alabama. In 2018, the EMS committee adopted the state equipment list to go by the state, because there were some conflicts with that. We did ask the city clerk for a copy of what should be on file in the city clerk's office. We weren't able to get that, but that is exactly what, actually above and beyond what the state requires. That's in your hands.
Chief England,
We
do you
already
have,
have this, so don't we?
Yes, sir.
Chief England, do you have a copy of what he's talking about,
I would just.
okay, just so you have a copy.
We've already got that page.
Okay, yeah, I'm just letting everybody see.
Now-
Yes, they want to know.
Explain a moment, you were not able to get the list from the city?
No, in the ordinance, it states the master equipment list will be kept on file at the EMS coordinator's office and the city clerk's office. We contacted the city, obviously all the records are housed in the clerk's office, and we weren't able to obtain that at that point. in
Did
time.
she refuse to send it to you?
No, not at all, no ma'am. No, sir.
They couldn't find it?
Correct.
Okay.
But that is our list, and it's above and beyond what the state requirements are.
And you are aware at any time that if the chief or anyone has questions, they can pull an ambulance over and make sure you have all
Yes,
this
ma'am.
on board.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief England? If you'd like time to review that, you can get back with us before we start our 10-day period of,
The only question that I have on here is on here you have waveform capnography. Is that on your monitors?
Yes, sir.
Or how is that, how are you?
That became a law in 2006, that became a a state rule in 2014 to have waveform capnography.
And so you do have the adapters for the LifePak 12 to zone monitors on there now?
We do have the
Thank you for putting that on there for me.
we do have some of those. Also, I would just like to tell the council this, as we said in the ARB meeting, and we don't want this to be contentious. You're asking us to hook a LifePak physio control monitor up to a set of Zoll's pads that are not provided. We think there's some liability in that, and we would like to research that a little bit more, because you're using two different products at that point in time. But the adapters are $25. We have no problem with that.
but the state requires the other that you do have, is that correct?
The waveform cap, yes, ma'am. That's
So
since
that would be
2014.
a city.
Assumed.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
If you can do those adapters, that would be wonderful. Does that answer that question?
Yes.
Okay. The next one I have is C. Is that where you are?
Where states,
Whether or not the applicant has been arrested?
yes.
Okay. This question is whether or not the applicant has ever been arrested or any federal or state crimes or violations of any city ordinance except for minor traffic offenses, the jurisdiction of the arrest, and the reason for the arrest.
Is this right? Should it be arrested or convicted?
Thank you, that was
That's the
my
issue.
question.
I mean, I'm just reading through this, I'm sorry.
No,
Everybody's got the same question, I'm sorry, okay.
No, that was my thing.
And not only that, but the applicant here is first response. It's not any individual or officer. The specific provision in the ordinance calls for the applicant to respond there.
But we can't actually ask for any board member on that.
Yeah.
So,
No,
and if
not
that's
according
something,
to the ordinance, you can.
we can change the ordinance to do that if we
Right.
so decide in the
Right,
future.
yes, ma'am.
So, I think our first question is, it should probably be convicted and not arrested, and I believe that makes total sense. I don't know if anybody else thinks not, but, I mean, I think
Well, I
that's.
do, but, and of course, well, no, we'll move forward.
So, this question is whether or not the applicant has ever been arrested for federal or state crime. What was your answer?
That Healthcare Investment Group is a corporation in good standing with state, local, federal departments. Healthcare Investment Group is not, well, it's a multiple part question here. I'm sorry. It's confusing. Simply put, for the sake of time, Healthcare Investment Group has not been arrested for any state or federal crime.
So that is answered. The way the question was answered is incorrect. If you want more details, the question should have been, has anyone on the board of directors for Healthcare Investment Group ever been convicted? Personally, I think you're looking at a legal issue if you say arrested. Convicted is, I mean, anybody can be arrested for something and it not happen at all. And so conviction to me is a more important than an arrest.
And of course, Chip, how do we get past that? Because operating as a corporation, it's going to be an artificial person.
Correct.
So how do we address that aspect?
The definition of operator in the definition section defines operator as a person engaged as the owner, manager, officer, or proprietor of any company, firm, or organization, or individual providing, and goes on with the rest of that. And the ordinance says that CP&C is issued to the operator, which tracks that definition. So the applicant would be the operator, and that's who it should go to. Otherwise, one individual could make the application, and we couldn't check the criminal histories of the rest of them. So it's not written in where it says applicant, but the applicant is the operator, and the operator is defined by all those people.
The applicant, for purposes of this section, specifically says the applicant. The applicant is first response. There are actually, Mr. Jackson, other provisions in here which specifically state within the CP&C application process where it asks for specific information about associates or employees of the particular applicant itself. The question here does not call for that, doesn't ask for that in the ordinance itself. The applicant is first response.
And we answered that question August 29th, 2020 at 12 p.m. Again, we answered that question on the 29th.
Right. Chief, do you have any problems with that question? Okay, let's go to the next one, please. The next one I have is on the very next page. Well, I guess it's D, but the last bullet point. So D, whether or not the applicant, his associate, or employees have had or currently have any claims or judgments against them for damages resulting from the negligent treatment of patients or operations of an ambulance or any other vehicle. Any judgments on that? And I believe right here, you did answer healthcare investment group, prides itself.
Yes, Ms. Beebe, we actually listed two things, and for the sake of not mentioning the names that were on there, and our answer is that Mr. Mark Lee, this was on our CP&C application, is the attorney that the insurance company has hired to represent us. And obviously, since it's ongoing litigation, we've been asked not to make any comments about it. And I think everybody could respect that.
So these two here, the Jackson versus Healthcare and Family of Mears versus Healthcare, those two?
That's it, yes, ma'am.
Okay, what else do you need from that answer?
I just wanted to make sure on those that it was nothing as far as negligent care or operation of vehicles or anything like that, or treatment of the patient before we go into something that has litigation as part of that.
I would think that, since it's still under litigation, they probably couldn't disclose that. I mean, and at any time, we can rip their license, or the council can at any time, if, let's say they come back with both of these that are negligent, oh, absolutely, I would hope the council would take their license at that point, but I don't know what those are because I'm not privy to that.
But Ms. Bigg, our position would be that it's not an admission to say what the suit is about is not given any privileged information. It's just what they've been sued for, and that's what the question is what are the allegations?
Well, I have a problem with that because, Chip, we've done the very same thing for the city of Decatur when people have asked about suits, the media, and we've said, we're not going to tell you anything. So,
Well, we've told them what the allegations were.
Sometimes you have not, and I'm not saying you specifically, but there have been questions of that, and again, I go back to, if we're going to make rules, we all have to play by the rules, the city as well as others. I mean, I guess you can probably Google these right here, and it'll probably bring up the case if you want them. I mean, it will. They're in court right now, obviously. So if you'd like details on them, you can. I don't know that it's, unless, and I would think Mr. Childers would not bring it if it was something bad that they could lose their license or something, then he would be silly to come and ask for CP&C if he knew you could go Google Jackson versus Healthcare, the state of Alabama, and find out what it was. Now, maybe you're that silly, David. I don't know if you are or not, but I would have, if I gotten this application, I would have just Googled that and read the case, or what is out there publicly right now.
Yes, ma'am.
So what else do you want to ask about that?
Well, I mean, if the council's position is they don't have to give us any details, then they don't have to give us any details. But by the same token, we could have gone in and jumped their fence and counted how many ambulances they've got too. The reason we ask them these questions is because they're privy to the information.
I don't disagree, but I think pending cases, Chip, that's ridiculous to ask someone about. I mean, if it still has not been decided.
The whole reason for it is to know if they're gonna continue to be able to operate. If they have a stack of cases pending against them, one that alleges, mishandling of patients, and one, if they've got a lot of them, then we have to start making plans on whether we're gonna have somebody ready to come in and take over.
I don't disagree at all.
Right.
And I would think
So
the
that-
council, whoever council is in place at that time, would be smart enough to pull their license. That to me is a gimme. I'm not quite sure why we're being so picky with that. If he's giving you that, all we have to do as an individual, I could get my computer right now and Google that.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's correct. We're just saying not to divulge the details. To the extent it's public knowledge or information, it can be accessed.
I mean, if he had not listed that at all, that may be the problem, but he listed both of those.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next.
Can we back up just 1 second?
Sure.
Chip, there's nothing that particularly specifies, I'm sorry.
There was some noise, I couldn't hear.
I don't see anything that particularly specifies, and maybe I'm just browsing over it, the suitability or the operability of the vehicles themselves. Is there anything that says that they have to be operable to a certain standard or anything?
The vehicle?
There is? Then I've just missed that, okay.
It's in there, and that's the basis of the mileage and other requirements also, to try to ensure that. But then they have to be operable. If any of them go out of service for breakdowns or wrecks, they have to notify us and things like that.
Councilman Jackson, just to clarify, the state of Alabama also comes annually and inspects our trucks and puts a state of Alabama sticker on it. So if they pass the state, we would think they would pass the city as well.
And I'm not trying to put a damper on this or
Yes, sir.
anything, and it's probably been 4 years ago, I guess. My daughter was still at UNA, and so it had to be, 3-4 years ago. And in 1 week's time, I saw a first response ambulance on the side of the road just as you were coming into the Town Creek area. And then in that same week, I happened to be going to Huntsville, and just as you were about to get off onto Rideout Road, there's one dead there. And I'm sure that, that happens from time to time, but I was trying to figure out if there's a standard that we look for, because, if our ambulances are breaking down, then they're of no use to our citizens.
I agree, sir.
And that's all I'm looking at.
I agree,
I'm not
sir.
trying to be hard, I'm just really trying to get a definite answer on it.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and as we've stated in our strategic business plan, once the application is approved, we're going to start a capital reinvestment with new trucks.
Okay.
And again, we are the ones that give them permission to have the license. Anytime we can inspect any.
Yeah, I
it's
just,
kind of a-
like I said, that was just kind of coincidental that in a week's period,
Sure.
I saw 2 dead ones on the highway, just going in different directions.
Okay, is it E, whether or not the applicant, his associates or employers have any claims or judgments against them? Is that the next one you have a question with? Okay. Go ahead.
We answered that question as Healthcare Investment Group is in good standing with local, state, federal departments. Claims and or judgments have not been presented for fraud, deceit, deception, or misrepresentation.
And I think, well, I've got the red here, it says David Childers, the board president, has stated previously in ARB meetings that a lawsuit against Healthcare Investment Group for FLSA, and you have, but actually, you let everybody know that is already taken care of and done, is that correct?
And it wasn't for fraud, deceit, deception, or misrepresentation.
Right. It was, and you can actually Google that one too, and I do have a copy of that one. It's for employees, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's paid off, is that correct? So that is not even pending anymore, so you're not paying out to those
Correct.
employees anymore?
Yes, ma'am.
So that is off the books. So any other questions?
I think he answered that.
Okay, we're just gonna make sure. All right, what do we have next?
Talks about the training experience and credentials of the applicant and any employee of the applicant and transport, transportation and care of patients.
Okay, can you sort of give us a page number? That I know that we don't have page numbers, but.
Paige, I can barely hear it, so let me know what page.
Okay.
I don't have page numbers on it either.
What letter is it under?
It's under I.
Okay. H.
That's section 332.
I apologize, I skipped over.
Well, let's just,
Under H.
okay, I guess my question is, section 331 is about the performance bond. Are you not going to address that?
Well, 331 is about the insurance, and they provided all the information there. 332, you skip down.
Okay, so that would come before that question, right? Okay. Well, let's just hit the performance bond first, David. And you have actually stated to the ARB on several occasions that has really not been able to get, even though you tried to get it. And this is my question to Herman. Herman, you are on the line, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Was this, if the $2 million bond, I think the council would be, or the city should be happy with any type of collateral that you or your business would put up in case of leaving in the middle of the night. As we talked about when this ordinance was adopted, we've had some bad luck with that in the past, and what all we're looking for, or I'm looking for, is the assurance, if that happens, that there's some accountability on y'all's side. You don't just leave. So I would be perfectly fine with you and your attorney and also our attorney sitting down with a collateral, some sort of agreement that you would have some collateral at stake if something like that were to happen.
Yes, ma'am.
If the $2 million bond is hard to get and can't be, then I think there's an agreement that can be made.
Yes,
Do y'all disagree?
I agree, we should come up with something.
Okay. If it's, he forfeits every one of his ambulances, I don't know what the total would be, but that, that he doesn't have a lien on or doesn't have a payment on, which I think you said you had payments on too.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you could write in that clause that he would pay for the outstanding debt of the ambulances, but they would be ours, so that'd be part of that collateral.
He said numerous occasions he tried to get the bond.
Mm-hmm.
And we just asked for like proof of denial or anything. We asked if he couldn't get the $2 million bond, what could he get? What amount could he get?
Mm-hmm.
So we can bring back to council and let you figure out what you want to do with this.
And to echo what Chief Thorpe said is Mr. Childers and Mr. Tendo has says that they have contacted several, during the meetings and the minutes and stuff, he said they have contacted several bond companies over time. The only correspondence we have from the bond companies is, if you turn to the very back of the CPNC, is on October 1st of 2019, and you can see there why the reasoning they can't get the $2 million from this one company. We don't
Is
have.
that the one I talked to?
Yes.
And part of that is that they weren't provided the financial information, the correct, I don't know what the accounting term is, but it's a certain kind of financial review or financial statement. And so we don't know if that was not enough information. We don't think it was because of the amount of the bond. It was because they didn't have the right financial information, and we never got any clarification on that.
But let's be clear, the reason this was even brought up was in the case of a total abandonment, if you will,
Absolutely.
would be collateral. So if the bond is not going to be, if that's going to be a sticking point, then let's have a contract about collateral. I mean, all the city is looking for is an assurance that there will be some accountability if they leave in the middle of the night, correct?
We need to be able to pay to have ambulances operate. We're going to have to pay another entity to come in if they disappear in the
And we've
middle of
had
the night. It's happened before.
It's my understanding that the majority of cases where somebody has posted a bond with the city is a city has given them a subsidy, and it's their way of recovering their subsidy and paying somebody else to come in. We're not giving them a subsidy.
I guess my thought here is we could give another option other than just this $2 million bond. Either a lower bond or a collateral agreement between the two entities that if they leave, that we would have their trucks, which I don't know right now what they're valued at. I think Mr. Jackson could help us with that, but with all the equipment still on. It would just be how you worded your
And that's
contract.
what they were asking them, well, if they won't give you 2 million, how much will they give? That's a step toward trying to work out some kind of compromise, but we don't have that information.
What we were trying to do is comply with the ordinance, which is to get a $2 million bond, and that was what we had to try to do to apply for the CPNC and to comply with it. We weren't asked to go get a $10,000 bond.
Did they give you any idea of what
No,
bond
everybody
did you-
just responded and said, we're not gonna give you a bond based on the penalty provisions and such and such, that they go into in their correspondence about the bond itself.
And not to cut you off, Ms. Beebe, we supplied a letter back from Ms. Carey with Valent, which is the bonding company for you guys. And the way you look at you, these people are brokers. You go to the agency and they have 20 different companies, or ever how many different companies that they solicit and they work with that are actually the underwriters. Each broker has the same access to the underwriters as the next one, just like our insurance companies that we have. We worked with Ms. Carey, and as you can see in one of the email, the contract appears to have quite a bit of forfeiture language for the financial conditions and presentation. Sorry, I can't be of any assistance. That was what she received from her, I guess, organizations, underwriters that she could reach out to. Harrison McKay is our insurance provider. They also are a broker for bonds. They reached out to every bonding underwriter that they have under roof. And as you can see in the letter that was supplied on September the 16th, they've continued throughout the year of working on that process. And basically what the feedback they're getting is the ordinance as written are a death penalty. And on the back, down at the very last, you can see that they're basically saying that there's no bond company that is going to consider this. And that's been our whole problem. Before you can get to...
David, let me stop you there.
Yes, ma'am.
So we know we have an issue with section 332, so I'm going to ask that our representatives, your representatives, sit down and either, if you can't get this $2 million bond or a bond of a little lower, that you work on a collateral contract as far as...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's, we know we have a problem with this one. I don't think we're going to solve this one right now today unless we're here till
No,
6 o'clock.
we're not gonna be, I mean, based on the feedback we've gotten even from the bonding company that's recommended by the city, they wouldn't even give it to us like.
So you're going to sit down with one another and decide out something in case there is a forfeiture of your company just to leave in the middle of the night. We've got to work on something. So
Will that be some type of modification? Are you talking about like revising the ordinance?
it would have to be, yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I was
Yes, sir.
asking. Okay.
So that'd be something that y'all would need to sit down with, okay? So we're going to pass 332 section. We know, I've already got that noted. We know that's going to have to be addressed. Next, we have which part?
We talk about the training, experience, and credentials of the applicants.
And that is I on the next page, I believe, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Bates, go
The
ahead.
only thing we had from them, and I was just giving this, was a list of the employees and their numbers, EMS numbers. It does the same thing about their credentials, their training they receive, and if you read the ordinance, it talks about that they're supposed to supply us with a critical management stress class. It talks about how they do their control substance policies and things like that. And that's part of the ordinance, and I haven't received it.
What section are you talking about in the ordinance?
I would have to look at it and find it, so.
Can we see that? Ms. Page, for the sake of time, I know everybody's ready to go. I, in the application, says the training experience and credentials of the applicant and employees of the applicant in the transportation of the care of patients. We went back to the National Registry in the state of Alabama, what the qualifications is to become an EMT B, EMT A, or EMT P. And we went line by line of classes these people have to have and have to be educated on. And we submitted that in our CPNC. In addition to that, on each one of our quarterly reports that we turn in at the quarterly meeting, we also turn in a revised roster of all of our people that have their credentials listed on that revised roster as well.
I'm I'm reading all of these credentials. Are you looking for more of a, do you want to, how many, what the number is of their?
He's correct in what he's saying, it's all just a little bit. We just asked for a roster of people that he's got and make sure they got current. Yeah, they have to have all this stuff he's got listed in here to be an EMT, paramedic, advanced, or basic. We just want to make sure that they have current. You have to get it renewed every so many years. Just because you get it one time in the company, this is what the qualification is, don't mean you get it. Our organization has to keep a copy of the record of our, our CPR certification, our ACLS certification. We have copies of that.
I totally understand it, and David, I would think the state of Alabama would require that.
Yes,
Can
ma'am.
you just not, whatever you give the state of Alabama, can you not just transfer over to them as well?
The state of Alabama actually keeps up with herself because that's who you credential through.
Okay,
And
well,
then
Can
we're.
you get a copy of that and just provide it to them?
We have their license number and we have their national license number and their state. If you want to see all where they're at with their classes or anything, you can put in that number and it'll tell you everything about that individual.
Let me recommend a compromise on that. Give them a complete list of what they want, but we need to get that ordinance changed. The city of Decatur may not solicit for the purpose of employment any of those said people.
We're not, we don't do that.
Then it should be no problem.
Okay,
No
so
problem.
you have, chiefs, have you received the numbers of the people that you can actually go in and check their?
I think you just give it to us.
Okay, so we have that?
I don't think I can go on the state of Alabama website and pull these people without having a login and password, because I know when we enter our people for Decatur, at the fire department to renew their license, we have to have a password that way we can input it. You can see if a person has a license or not.
Yep, that's on you're talking about the administration side. If you go on the state website, you can go in as access public. Anybody here can go in and put in a person's name.
See a person's, their demographics or anything like that, as far as where they're at
But-
their license, you'll be able to see that they have
Right.
a license.
But if they're licensed by the state of Alabama, then they're licensed, and they've met all these requirements.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is that if we can go in and verify the state of Alabama has checked them off, what do we need past that?
I mean, I just asked them to give us a list. I mean,
Okay, so that list will not
their training list and what they're
suffice or
doing
anything?
as far as other training stuff like that.
Will that list not suffice? Okay, or, if you don't mind, if you can make it easier, could you take all of these, could you run a copy of all these numbers? Since y'all know how to do it, can you go and get the numbers and just make a copy for us?
Just where it says they're
Yeah,
EMTB,
go
EMTA.
into the state, since we haven't done that, and just do that, and provide that, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then,
That'll be done today.
thank you. All right, next question? I have it under I, is that correct? Current contractual agreements?
That's if they have any contract agreements or understandings with the healthcare provider, major employers, payers, or municipalities or entities that would affect the applicant's ability to provide uninterrupted ambulance services in the city.
Says healthcare investments, this was their original answer, hold no agreements
Yes.
or understandings that would interrupt service for the city of Decatur.
Correct.
So you have no contracts with any other Trinity, Hartsel, et cetera?
No, ma'am.
Which is nothing wrong with it, I feel that they should have some type of, as it says, contract or agreement with nursing homes or DCI patients, DCI, different places like that where they provide service for them. And there's nothing wrong with them having that, it's just the fact of.
There are times we do.
Well, I know they've tried in the past to get one in the hospital. The hospital, I mean, it was a chore. I mean, I guess they could do that, but are we requiring them? Is it our ordinance to require them to do that?
It just says understandings, agreements or understandings with anybody else. I would think they'd have an understanding, at least with DCI or.
And the reason we're asking, because so that it says provide uninterrupted services. And being around the ambulance service, we understand that they're going to have these BLS or understandings in order to pay the bills. So I just want to be able to understand if they have this, so when you go to status of 0, how many of these are going to
David, do you have any agreements?
First response stands by the original answer.
Okay, so you have none. You have
No,
none
ma'am.
with anybody getting dialysis, no back and forth from nursing home? You have nothing?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you want him to have it, you can ask him to have it. I mean, but
We would love to get everybody involved and for everybody to push for the hospital to give us a contract and things of that nature, but I think we're on that slippery slope at that point in time of private enterprise
well, again,
at that point.
the city has nothing to do with you and 911 contract either. I don't know why that's relative, but he's answered it, and if we're good with that, then we're good to carry on. The next one's M, proof that the applicant has necessary credentials, experience, license required to operate an ambulance service in the state of Alabama. His answer, Healthcare Investment Group, was granted an advanced life support license by the Alabama Department of Public Health and EMS, and has maintained said license beyond furthering our license and scope of practice to serve the city of Decatur. Healthcare Investment Group sought to obtain the highly regarded critical care license. Healthcare Investment Group was granted the CCT or SCT license. The state of Alabama has 7 ground transport service that have obtained the highly regarded license. Healthcare Investment Group has attached a copy of our state license with the application for the CPNC. I do have that. But you're saying now you do not have a critical care because you don't have that critical care, the person needs to drive on that, right?
You first have to get the license, the paper document, and then at that point in time, you've got to get a critical care unit that can only be used for interfacility transports only. So when we get past the CPNC, we will be obtaining a vehicle for that specific purpose and looking to reach out to hire critical care paramedics so that when we do that, we already have the state's approval to start that service immediately without having to go through 9 months of rigorous back and forth with the state to meet their requirements.
I guess my question is, do we require a critical care unit?
We, as the fire department, we could get our critical care license if we wanted to. The way it works is you have to have certain people. So if we wanted to do that as a city, as a fire department, then we could.
I will address that at the end. I think it's a moot question if we can versus they can. They've obviously done it. Is it a requirement in our ordinance for them to have it? No.
It's not a requirement. Like I said earlier, I was wanting to make sure that they carried this specialized equipment that our people are familiar with it. So if something goes wrong, then our guys will know what's going on.
And I know we're not trying to drag this thing out forever, but I seem to think that there was a disconnect between what critical care does, a critical care unit does, because you were shaking your head no, and when he was saying that it could only transport from one health facility to another, basically, one hospital to another, and you were saying no. What is there a disconnect on what the critical care unit should be able to do or should not be doing?
Well, not right now, no. It's just a disconnect of, if Mr. Childers said that critical care is only from hospital to hospital. That's incorrect, because myself and Chief Springer back there both were former critical care medics. And up until last year, I worked at Coleman EMS, which is a ground service, which did perform critical care procedures while on scene.
That's expanded scope of practice, that's not critical
It's also
care.
falls underneath.
Expanded is within.
Okay, I'm not trying to get this thing, I'm just trying to get a better understanding of what we're asking for, if what we're asking for is reasonable or not.
No, we're not asking for anything as far as critical care.
Okay.
He says that they stated in the application that they had their critical care license. I asked for a list of equipment, just for education to our people, to understand that if they start doing this right here, then they have a license to do that.
Okay, so if it was not required, then, okay, all right.
Mr. Jackson,
It's basically a mute point.
just for clarification, section 312 of the city ordinances says CPNC requirement exemptions, and D, specialty care transports are exempt from the CPNC.
Okay, so.
That's referring to hospital and places like that have a respiratory therapist and nurse.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess it's just a comment, but if our guys should be trained on whatever apparatuses, it really doesn't matter if he has them or not, we should know what to do with them, right? If our guys are so trained, which I agree they are, whatever he has on his ambulance, we should have somebody on our crew that knows how to use that apparatus. Is that not correct, unless it's something brand new that we don't have?
I'm referring to if they have their critical care and expanded scope,
Okay.
they're licensed, they could have the type of medication that would actually put somebody to sleep.
Do we have the access to
No,
that?
we do not, and our
Okay.
guys have not been trained on the use of that medication, so I just wanted them to have a list and to be able to say, look, this could happen, so be prepared if they give this, this, or this, this patient's going to quit breathing.
Well, at the time that you want to enact yours, when you have all that in place, then you may want to tell them that.
Yes, ma'am.
You
We'll
will
do it.
need to
We'll
tell
do
them
it in
that, But
service.
since it's not in play now, it really is.
Yes, ma'am, we'll do it in
I
service.
didn't know it wasn't in play until just now.
Okay. Then we have 1C, whether or not the applicant has ever been arrested for a federal or state crime or violation of any city ordinance for minor, did we not already answer this one? Why is
Yes,
it-
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But this is another question, same question, just down the road?
Yeah, there was actually four different emails, and some of them overlapped.
Okay, again, I'm curious why we're asking again if anyone's been arrested and not convicted, and did we not already answer this question? I mean, is this different than the first question?
I didn't answer, I mean, I didn't ask another question, but I bounced back up.
I think we've been through all the questions.
Yeah, we're up, yeah.
Okay. And then 2C, whether the applicant or his associates or employees have or currently have any claims. I guess maybe I've got different ones.
I think it's an answer, like a thread of an email.
Okay, well, tell me where next is your question, Chief? That's it with the whole thing? Yep, yes? Okay, perfect. Well, all I have is section 332 and talking about the bond, and I would prefer it not take forever, and if we can't get the bond, then we work on a letter of a contractual agreement with collateral, and in case that you leave in the middle of the night, like we've had done in the past, of course, the city would need to get something for that.
Understand, Ms. Page, what I would suggest. Obviously, as hard as we're fighting to stay in the city, we're not going to leave. A lot of other cities put a contract agreement that you've got to give at least a 30-day notice before you depart. We wouldn't have a problem with giving a 30-day notice, and even a $25,000 quote-unquote cash bond, if you will. I don't think you'd have to pay somebody to come in here to operate. If you do, I hope it's me. But, we could do a 30-day out with a $25,000 in an account, something like that would suffice.
Well, unfortunately, that didn't happen with the last one, so it'd be great if people would give us a 30-day notice.
Yes, ma'am.
But some do not, and so you understand our hesitation there.
Indeed, I do.
That is all I have now, and even we've talked, and I'm in support of it, and Mr. Jackson's been in support of it in the past. I'd love to see eventually the city fire department has the emergency calls, the ALS ambulances. I think that's something that we can look forward to in the future, and maybe having that, I think that'd be a wonderful thing for the future, so.
And I do think that, I don't mean to cut you off, but
No, go
I do
ahead.
think that, we've talked about equipment, credentials, bonded status, understanding that we won't have uninterrupted service. And I understand fully that the buy-in for us, and I'm not saying anything in front of David that I hadn't already said to him face-to-face, that the buy-in for our city would be significant. But I do think that it is going to be beneficial for us in the long run, for us to do exactly what Ms. Bibby just talked about, for us to do our own emergency transport. Of course, we're not interested in BLS, just emergency, ALS. But I think that all of these things go away, Chip, if we're doing our own. We set our own standards. We require certain credentials from our EMS people or our people who have to be certified in a certain regard to be able to do this. But again, there is significant initial buy-in or cost for us, but I think in the long run, our citizens, in my mind, and no discredit to your company, but they're safer because we set the standards. We know what they are. We know what we're requiring of our employees. We know that we want best care that our citizens can get. So that's, again, this kind of magnifies what we've been saying all along, is that we need to at least explore this and give future councils the opportunity to decide whether or not it's financially feasible for us to do it. I think I don't know that there's any way that's financially feasible for us not to do it. I think we have to for the life and well-being of our citizens. So that's where I am. I've been an advocate for this for some time, and I think others have too. But, Chief, we've got to look at this. We've got to take all of this stuff off the table if we possibly can. We might not be able to, but if we possibly can, we need to be able just to remove this discussion and move forward with our own process.
Councilman Jackson, if I may.
Just one thing, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but also when 2 years ago or whenever it started, when we were tasked with coming up with a plan, this is what they wanted. It was not explore whether we can operate there. This is what the ordinance came from. We need a plan that has an ordinance. At first it was a contract, then it was an ordinance. But that's what we came up with. That does not say what we prefer or not, but we have operated in good faith trying to make this system work, because that's what we were tasked with doing.
Okay. And Councilman Jackson, if I may, really quickly, I'd like to publicly state I'm in agreement with you.
Okay.
Whatever first response has to do with the fire department, whether it's public-private sector agreement, phase Decatur Fire in as a 911 provider, and then us, everybody knows you can't go out and buy 5, 6, 7 ambulances at one point in time. That's a large investment. But kind of like you've done the fire trucks, little by little, start that. And first response is right there, and we're committed to running backup calls in the event your ambulance, 2 ambulance, 3 ambulance, whatever it may be, is tied up at the point in time. And we would continue to do that, and that would make it a little bit more cost-effective going forward for the fire department to get into the 911 business. But we're always there to assist you. We think that you should be running the 911s, and we're there to help you in any way we can, and there's an open line of communication at any point in time.
And Chip, to follow up to yours, actually, several years ago when Chief Grandy was here and we were changing this, he did actually get numbers. It was about a $4 million cost. We actually took a whole work session on talking about it, and there was no interest, not a overwhelming interest from council to do that or pursue that.
I wasn't disputing that issue had come up, but as far as drawing up a plan and we never got into the details of that because the numbers didn't work.
Well, yeah, because you only had 2 council members, I believe, that would have voted for it at the time, so he did not put any effort in that. Yeah. So just because we have the CP&C doesn't mean we didn't look at it. I think there's a new way of looking at it, and I think we can, and I would, like Mr. Jackson, I would encourage that. My only other recommendation is sitting in on those ARB meetings, or whatever they were before, we changed the name of it. I know last meeting there was a complaint filed about stair chairs. They did not have one on their, one of the ambulances that was and my thing was, I was at the meeting when we required them to have 5. They have 5, but we never told them where we wanted them. So my recommendation in the future was, if you require them to have something, be specific on where you want those stair chairs. I think they had some on BLS. We needed it on. They had 2 on ALS, 3 on BLS. Right? Let's just state that out. I think we have to be very clear on what we want and where we want them, because legally they had 5. So really, that, in fact, it never got even a motion to vote on, because I think that board saw that. So that would just be my recommendation, in the future, just be very specific on what we want, where we want it. Okay? So 332 is what y'all need to discuss as soon as you can. I know you have a 911 contract due October 1, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that way it can come back to this council, we can advertise it for 10 days, and we can vote on the CP&C. Okay?
Yes,
all right. Next, John, we have the budget.
Ma'am, one other thing, their CP&C expires
You're going to do
Wednesday.
2286. We need to do that one.
So
it's.
Yeah, you got a resolution that's
To extend it, because their CP&C
Their CP&C will
lapses
expire.
at midnight Wednesday.
I thought we had a meeting, a special called meeting scheduled for Wednesday.
Well, we need to do this extension. No, I think Herman's called you about that.
We may need it for budget anyway, so I was going to keep that on. That's what my request was to keep the Wednesday meeting up in case we needed.
Yeah, we still have it up.
Can we not add to, hopefully they'll get this ironed out before Wednesday. If they get it ironed out before Wednesday, we don't have to extend it. So we can vote to put the 10-day publication out on Wednesday and.
Okay.
everything.
If
Now,
you're-
they may not get it done before Wednesday, but we'll know Wednesday and then we can approve whatever that is you want to approve today, right? For the 6-month extension?
The October 5th is actually when the extension.
But we have a special call meeting Wednesday.
Yes.
We can actually vote on Wednesday.
Yes.
So we can vote, if it doesn't get rectified before Wednesday, to vote on their 6-month extension. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. We'll do that Wednesday then.
That sounds good.
All right, thank you. All right, John, thank you, everybody.
Thank
John, you ready for budget?
This may be relatively easy. Can't get out.
Better knock on some wood, John.
Wait a minute.
Would this be the right time to talk about unmasking the issue? Oh, come on, John, give me a little chuckle anyway.
Oh, master.
All righty.
We have made the adjustments as previously discussed. I just want to update a couple of things. Okay, there's no longer a crossing sales tax, right? So it's incorporated in the sales tax, and the school gets their 25% of, it's treated like regular sales tax. We talked about the SSUT. 25% of that going to the school. The budget contains the Tier 2 to Tier 1 conversion. There's a debt reserve of $998,753, and I sent out the debt service. What that does, it allows us to level off this year and next year so that the balloon payment isn't a big hit. We had a drop and then a bigger rise, so we just leveled it off over time. So you know, we're basically at a $5 million debt service across the fiscal years. No new positions. The medical insurance, there were varying rates of contribution. We leveled it at 87 across the board. That is the family contribution rate, so it's no impact on them. The single went from 93% contribution to the city to 87. So I believe it was about a $24 a month increase to singles.
So for whatever reason, a person doesn't get a step raise, and we're not doing any sort of cost, pay adjustment, then they're gonna be at a negative, a net negative.
Right, but I would venture to say, I'd like to know the last time somebody didn't get a step increase. Okay.
I can't answer that question, but it's
a rare event.
But it's a potential situation.
If you don't get a step, it's a performance issue. You did something to negate that step increase.
And it can be subjective.
Well, it's still, I mean, there are avenues to take it to the personnel board and discuss it and everything else. I mean, I don't think it's as arbitrary as you think it is.
Well, I'm not saying it's arbitrary, but it can be subjective and. Okay.
Sure, but I don't
Okay.
think, again, I don't
You've
think
answered my
anybody's been penalized. There's $500,000 for the police vehicles still in there. We readjusted the appropriations as discussed. The $100,000 for best and brightest coming out of water for resale. We've adjusted for the retirement rates, which were slightly higher. We adjusted for the medical rates, which were 5% instead of 4%. still contains the payroll adjustment of 1 million. We've had a, pretty much a predictable lapse in payroll of 1 million per year. Going into any fiscal year, I can't tell you where that million's gonna pop up, but we're pretty confident, looking historically, that there's about $1 million in lapse, payroll lapse every year. So to bring it, the expenses in line, we made an adjustment in the budget to take $1 million. Again, training related to certifications, and I know there's been a lot of discussion. Let me just clarify, okay? Conferences, the travel associated with conferences and lodging that don't necessarily have anything to do with certifications, okay? And the police department probably has more of those than others because their roles are more widespread. You go from drug enforcement to human trafficking to, public relations. I mean, there's a whole gamut of things. So these are areas that, yeah, in a average year where we have revenues and we don't have what we're dealing with right now, we send people to. But given the circumstances, we've adjusted in the budget. The second thing I'll say about that is a lot of these have already been canceled, where people are not. Also, we have people who have paid their registration up front and paid for the expenses up front after they've been canceled, and so they've been credited. So some of these, people may still attend only because the money's been spent. It does not impact local training. All local training is going to happen. And finally, I'm just going to say, in terms of traveling, given the circumstances that we have out there, do we really want to have a lot of people traveling? You go out, you're in a crowd or something, you catch something, you bring it back, and then all of a sudden, you've got a problem in the police department, fire department, whatever. So anyway, that's...
John, one second. Chief Allen, are you on the line?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
I was going to ask on those training, some of those training I know you need to be in person because they will be hands-on, but some of those training, have you seen an adjustment to being online trained rather than going to a certain venue to do that?
Yes, most of them are still going on now. In the early part of the virus, during the pandemic, most of the things were canceled. Now, the training are starting to pick back up, especially going into the next year, fiscal year. We're going to be there, but a lot of them are done virtually now, but the trainings are still there. So they may cut down on some of our hotel stay, but some of the training we still need.
Okay, that was what I was asking. So if you see a decrease, it may be because we're not traveling to the place. It could be a virtual, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And then finally, the trash bills. We talked about that. DU came back, spread the cost over 2 years. So the residential rates go up 21 cents a month. The commercial rates go up 33 cents per month. And the extra cart goes up 15 cents per month. And that's basically it. I can tell you number-wise.
And so let me ask real quick on this, the trash pickup. So next October 1, it will be 21 more cents on top of this, or?
I believe so.
Okay, so it will double next year on October 1.
Right. And that includes the CPI that's in there. So as it is, the budget, as discussed, is at $65,113,351, and it's balanced.
You're basically assuming it's a net zero plus and minus, assumedly on that.
What do you mean net zero?
65,113,051.
Is revenue and expense
Revenue
number.
expenses estimated to be exactly those pennies, right?
Yes, sir.
Estimated.
Yes, sir.
Very good, John. Thank you.
I'd just like to make note of this. The $500,000 for the police cars was added by council. That was not addressed with capital at the beginning, but it was noted by the majority of the council that the police needed to continue in their
Correct.
cars.
And there were no other vehicles in the budget.
council members have any questions. Mr. Art, are you on the line now? I know you said you had to go and would reconvene via.
Yes, I am on the line.
Okay. I'll tell you what, give us 1 second. Could you step out and see if Billy's ready to take a vote or has a question?
John, he went that way.
Oh.
He went down the hall toward the. Yeah, he went toward the clerk's office. I don't know how far.
Mr. Ard, do you have any questions concerning the budget?
I do not.
Ms. Hill?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Kirby?
No.
I don't either. So let's see, Mr. Jackson, if he has any.
I'm thinking he was guessing we wouldn't be through
Why
this
are you
quick.
waiting for him?
Well,
I'm going to just approach this with you one more time on that resolution.
Which resolution?
I have to publish that public hearing. I have to have 10 days.
No
If
problem.
we don't vote on it today, we won't make it by October 5th.
Okay, then we'll do that. Let's do this.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just
Mr. Jackson?
I don't
you-
have any questions. I discussed them with John already, so
Okay,
I'm good.
perfect. I just want to make sure.
Thank
This
you, I
is what
appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. So at this point, we have no questions from any council members regarding the 2021 budget. John, we do appreciate you and Kyle's hard work. I know that y'all worked obviously for that, so thank you. Do I have a motion? And let me.
For immediate
Motion
consideration.
approved.
Hang on 1 second. Let me get the agenda
Did you say that we have any concerns or questions?
questions.
Okay, I have concerns, but I'll discuss those with John.
All right, I believe it is ordinance number 204428, approve FY 2021 general fund budget, first reading, and it's a request for unanimous consent. So do I have a motion
moved.
for, okay, by Mr. Kirby, do I have a second?
Second.
For unanimous consent? All right, roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
So we have a 5-0 for immediate consent. So now this would be the actual vote for ordinance 204428, approve
So moved.
FY 2021. Motion by Mr. Kirby, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ard, any discussion?
I do want to say that I have not voted for a budget in a number of years for some disagreements in general principles on them, but I did see some movement by council and a lot of good advice offered to us today, and I thought a lot of people compromised. Again, probably can't be any such thing as a perfect budget, but since I saw people cooperating and trying to compromise and work things out, I'm going to support the budget this time.
I have some of the same sentiment. I've not voted to support a budget in quite some time. I think that sometimes we've gotten numbers that were unrealistic. Last year's budget, I thought, was similar to that, or would reflect that. I do have concerns about this budget, but I did see a level of cooperation where we put a lot of things in front of us that and dealt with those things. Like I said, there are things in the budget that I don't agree with still, but I will support this budget this year.
Anything else, Ms. Hill or Mr. Ard? Okay.
No.
Mr. Ard, no? Okay.
No.
Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Ordinance number 204428 has been approved 5-0. Thank you,
Thank
John.
you.
You bet. Let's revisit, Stacy, the.
286, 20-286.
All right, and this is going to be the extension of the CPNC for
CPNC.
6 months, but that can
Till
change.
October 5th.
Okay, till October 5th. Okay, till October 5th, not 6 months, right?
Right.
Extending to October 5th, to and including October 5th.
Well, you'll be having your public hearing that night, because I'll get it
Yes,
published.
public hearing that evening, and that.
I just wanted to clear what we said we're voting on, that's all.
Okay, and that resolution number is what?
286,
280.
20-286.
Resolution 20-286 will be to approve until October 5th of 2020, the CPNC extension until that 3032 has been addressed. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Kirby, do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Hill. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby.
Aye.
Art.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
That 2286 has passed 5-0. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, ma'am.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. I have to get a million signatures filled in. Oh, I'm not